Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Cogent K9. Today we're going to be looking at a Jordan Peterson debate he did with Slavoj Zizek. I have no idea. But he is a philosopher. The debate was capitalism versus Marxism. The debate was also about happiness. How do we become happy? And this is where we start off. This is kind of towards the end of the debate. And I am going to be dissecting what Jordan Peterson says. So let's do it.
At heart this evening, we're talking about happiness. At least that's the frame of the debate that we have tonight. And you've both been, in your work and also tonight, very critical of happiness as mere hedonism, pleasure-seeking, or even simply as a feeling.
I think most people understand that happiness isn't just immediate pleasure, immediate gratification, hedonism, going out, doing as much blow and hookers as possible. I think most people know where that kind of ends up. So it's not that profound of a question, but hey, what do I know?
What does true or deeper human happiness consist of, and how is it attained?
Hookers and blow. I mean, is that strippers, sex, money, all the fame, right? Are these not the things that make people happy? Oh, no, you mean like family life, kids, virtues, those types of things, right? Okay.
I don't care.
I don't care. I don't fucking care,
First
right?
of all, there's something you said
Привет, Coxilla.
5 minutes ago or so.
And also, I do not understand why people like Jordan Peterson. Maybe I've watched too much of him. Maybe it's me. Maybe it's something inside of me. I'm not saying that's not a possibility, but I know there are plenty of other people who share this with me. The way he talks is so unnecessary. You have to just follow him down this train, this rabbit hole of nonsense until he finally gets to a non-point that you waited all that time to hear, and then all of a sudden he plops a non-answer on the table, and you wasted all that time, and it makes you want to punch yourself in your face. I'm not going to do that now.
I think you were still at the podium, that I agree with profoundly, which is that
this is something also does. I agree with that so much. We have so much in common. Now let me tell you why you're wrong. But we have so much in common. All Jordan Peterson fans know that I am one to get along with people and have intellectual conversations. And of course, you look down in the debate or the comment section down here, and it's people saying, there's two forms of debate, a battle and an exploration. This is an exploration. Whenever Jordan Peterson's in a debate, it's not a debate. They're just shooting the shit and figuring out life's problems. Don't you understand? Jordan doesn't have debates. He has awe-inspiring conversations.
happiness is a side effect. It's not a thing in itself. It's something that comes upon you. It's like an act of grace in
all motions come upon you.
some sense. And my sense
I
is that
accept even the theological undertone of what you say.
I love how he picked up on it. Yes, everything that Jordan says has a theological undertone. And this is how he can pull in both fish, the Christian fish and the atheist fish, is because he perfectly kind of walks this line of introducing words like grace, the transcendent, while still staying in the lines of speaking kind of scientifically. And he walks this line very well. It's like a tightrope
The
walker.
category of grace can be used in a perfect atheist sense. It's one of the deepest categories.
yeah, well,
Yes, but I don't think he was using it in the proper way. I think he was using it in a very theological way, and that's different.
I'm sorry.
okay, good. Well, I would think that we could find agreement about that partly because of your psychoanalytic background. You know perfectly well that we're subject to forces within us that aren't of our voluntary control.
The inner lobster telling us to go dominate. I understand, Jordan.
And certainly happiness is one of those, because you cannot will yourself to be happy. You might be able to will yourself to be unhappy, but you can't will yourself to be happy.
Well, I can say this. You can will yourself, or you can meditate or have mindfulness that can very much help in reducing the time that you are actually mad at something. And it is actually a conscious decision you're making in your head. You're choosing to flip off the patterns that repeat over and over again of telling you what you did was stupid. You just choose after a while not to relive the experience. And that can be a conscious decision. But he's right. It is much harder to will yourself to be happy than it is to will yourself to be unhappy. If you can very easily do that. If you want to have a shitty day, you're going to have a shitty day. Or if you wake up thinking this is going to be a shitty day, you're probably going to have a shitty day.
There are certain preconditions that have to be met that are quite mysterious in order for you to be happy. And then it happens. And then maybe if you're wise, you
know, it's funny. You ever like look around at people in life, and some people just seem to have a great go of it. Maybe they're just better at framing their Facebook and their Instagram, making it look like they're having a jolly good time. And I don't know if it's like people who aren't that smart and they just kind of willfully or ignorantly go through life, not really thinking about much, not really comprehending much, just kind of having a good time going from one party to the next. I wish sometimes I could be like that and I didn't feel the need to try to be somewhat of an intellectual. I wish I would let's just party and drink brewskis, you know? It seems like a better time.
You regard that as a minor incomprehensible miracle that somehow you happen to be in the right place at the right time.
You see the religious language again? An incomprehensible miracle. A miracle.
Now, I've made the case that the most effective means of pursuing the good life
is to live like Jesus,
which is not the same as pursuing happiness.
Really, why do you raise a kid? You know, it sucks to raise a kid, but ultimately it makes you happy. Why do you go and get your PhD? I mean, it's hell getting your PhD. It's a lot of work, and people would call that not being happy, but it's delayed gratification. You know, at the end of it, you're going to be happy, so it seems the end pursuit, no matter what you do, is either contentment or happiness, whatever form it takes in the meantime. You know, obviously you can suffer through things on the other side, knowing that the pleasures are going to be greater due to the suffering. So it seems that the end goal is happiness and contentment.
Adopt something like a stance of maximal responsibility towards the suffering and malevolence in the world. And I think that should be pursued primarily as an individual responsibility. It's not like I don't think that political and familial larger organizations are necessary, but in the final analysis, we each suffer alone in some fundamental sense, and we have our own malevolence to contend with in some fundamental sense.
Yes, I agree. Everyone has their own demons that they have to deal with themselves.
And the proper beginning of moral behavior, which is the proper beginning of the right way to act in the world, is to take responsibility for that. I think you do what...
You know, so like kind of bear the cross. So take the cross on your back and bear it. It's basically what he's saying. And he's not using the religious language right now because it really wouldn't sound that good in front of this audience. Also, given the fact that guy just kind of pointed out the religious language he was using.
You can to conceptualize the highest good that you can conceptualize. That's the first thing, to develop a vision of what might be. And it has to be a personalized vision as well as a universalized vision.
Basically, what he's saying is exactly the story of Jesus Christ. Give up sin, take up the burdens on your back, and meet suffering head on. This is basically what Jordan is saying. And he compares that to the story of Jesus Christ and basically having to climb up the hill before getting crucified and facing, death in facing death and all that. He ties all this right into Christianity. These conversations can be had completely separate, but Jordan doesn't like to do that. Here he's doing a pretty good job at it, but I think he's going to start pretty soon here, if I had to guess.
And then you work diligently to ensure that your actions are in keeping with that, and you allow yourself on that pursuit to be informed by the knowledge of your ignorance and the necessity for acting and speaking in truth. And a fair bit of that, I believe, is derived. I think it's fair.
How do you know if you're speaking truth, Jordan? How do you know if you can trust your own thoughts? How do you know that what you know to be true in your head is actually true in reality? How do you know your truth aligns with someone else's truth? You're all about everyone having their own truth. That's why truth should be one truth, and it should be something that we can all try to understand. It should be universal in that sense. That's what makes something true. But Jordan has this weird idea of everyone having their own truth, but also claiming not to be a postmodernist. Half of what the guy says is gobbledygook, and it makes me so mad.
to say that that's derived from an underlying Judeo-Christian ethic, and I make no bones about the fact that
See, I told you. On all this comes from underlying Judeo-Christian values, dude.
Really, Jordan? Prove it, bitch.
think of those stories metaphysically.
I love this is like a debate, and he's like,
Hey, you gotta think about the stories, the ones in the Bible, the ones I lecture about all the time. You really, really gotta take and consider this book, the Bible. Have you? Have you read the Bible? It's wonderful. Oh, what a wonderful world it is with the Bible.
it's so stupid. He's just repackaging Christianity and trying to make it look scientific. And the people fall for it left and right. More and more people are seeing his antics and leaving his side. But there is still a bunch of people that love this man, even though he talks out his hee-haw.
Or philosophically or psychologically as...
I swear several times during this debate, he's been like, and he's like swallowed his own tongue.
fundamental to the proper functioning of our society insofar as it can function properly. And so it's not...
Oh, okay, whatever that means. Whatever that means, right?
Happiness, it's meaning. And meaning is to be found in the adoption of responsibility. And then I'll close...
Is it always, though? I mean, does it have to be? That's the question. I understand that taking on responsibility helps in being happy, but can you be happy without responsibility? Is it integral to being happy, responsibility? Is it contingent upon it? I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. Maybe it is, but I don't know. I don't claim to know.
Responsibility is not only to do what you believe to be right. That's not, because that's duty. That's not enough. That's sort of what the conservatives put forward as the ultimate virtue, which is duty. It's not that.
What is it, Jordan?
It's that you're acting in a manner that is in accordance with what you believe to be right, but you're doing it in a manner that simultaneously expands your ability to do it, which means that you cannot stay safely ensconced within the confines of your current ethical beliefs. You have to stand on the edge of what you know. And
how is that different from the other thing he said? The way he says these things, it's so unnecessary. You're standing on the precipice of who you know as a person, and each step you take into that truth that you know is one more step into the expansion of the truth that's yet to come. And doing this and adopting these principles and taking up this lifestyle is virtuous beyond reason alone, and it's only when you take these meta-narratives brought on by the Bible that you can truly start to understand interpersonal relationships and what it means to walk in truth. Where's my puke bag?
And encounter continually the consequences of your ignorance to expand your domain of knowledge and ability so that you're not only acting in an efficient manner, but you're increasing the efficiency and productivity and meaningfulness of what it is that you're...
Work hard, tell the truth, keep doing that until it works out for you.
Engaged in. And I think that...
And also read the Bible and follow Jesus.
And I believe that the psychological evidence supports this. Even the neuropsychological evidence is...
Supports what? Supports your ramblings about nothing? No, it doesn't.
That's when true happiness descends upon you.
Hey, the evidence all supports that my wiener's bigger than everybody else's. Evidence supports that. I'd say most intellectuals in that field of study, prominent intellectuals in that field of study, all conclude that my wiener is bigger than everybody else's.
Because it's an indication from the deepest recesses of your psyche, biologically instantiated, that you're in the right place at the right time.
Does your biology do that? I understand that there are, we have certain intuitions, and our intuitions can drive us, given that they are biological, and we should pay attention to our intuitions. But I think he's going a little bit farther than that, and he's saying that truth or living this virtuous life, which is connected to Judeo-Christian values, can be felt inside, and he's basically claiming the Holy Ghost that lives inside you. And whenever you steer off the righteous path, path, then there's going to be the Holy Ghost inside you that gives you a little slap on the wrist and says, no, you're not living in your truth, and you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Basically, he's reformulating the argument of the Holy Ghost that lives within you, and just repackaging it and saying it all over again, and people hear something new and different. He's literally saying your inner being will tell you when you're right and wrong. Yeah, that little voice in your head, we know what that is, Jordan, but that can be wrong sometimes, and that's why we should seek information and knowledge, because I don't always know if I'm doing the right thing. And I think if you are so dead set and you know for a matter of fact you're doing the right thing all the time, you're going to miss out on opportunities to learn to be a better person. So I don't think it's just a matter of looking inwards and from your own head space declaring that you're on the righteous path. I think there's many things that are involved in understanding if you're living a prosperous, valuable life other than your own subjective feelings about it. You can look at the outside world. You can take other people's opinions on board. It's a process. It's not like the Holy Ghost just goes, you got it, bud. Keep doing what you're doing. But this is what Jordan is doing. And it is completely religious, wrapped up in pseudoscience. Because that's what he is.
You're doing what you should be doing, but you're doing it in a manner that expands your capacity to do even better things in the future. And I think that's the deepest human instinct there is. It's not rational. It's far deeper than that. And it's something...
What's not rational about it? If following the righteous path, where it gets you where you want to go, what's not rational about that? Yeah, the indicators, and this idea that rationalists or people who like to be reasonable, that's all they work off of. No, it's love and rationality. Empathy is why we care about one another, and then rationale helps us to achieve our goals in wanting to help people. It is a two-part process. You cannot just take emotions, pure emotion, and you cannot take pure rationale. It is the conjunction of the two that makes a healthy human being, right? Is this not just obvious?